Welcome to the first proper matchup analysis, the first video in the new series where we explore and analyze meta setups in order to find the perfect setup to counter it. Plenty of you have requested Yhorm's Dark Sword analysis, so there you get it. But first we start with some basic philosophy that applies to pretty much any duel in Dark Souls 3, and this matchup is not an exception. When you're approaching a duel, you gotta have a good game plan in mind. You have to know what openings you can exploit and punish, and what openings are better left alone. Some weapons have all bases covered, so it's really hard to exploit a set opening, and you're forced to bait mistakes, pushing your setup to its limits. However, in most cases, there's always an opening you can reliably exploit. So, what makes Yhorm's Dark Sword combo viable in PvP? Well, you get a fast weapon in main hand with really good tracking, and hyper armor weapon for sit trades in offhand. This setup is very stat efficient since both weapons can be scaled very effectively with strength. Most players use Dark Sword and Yhorms with very simple setups that rely on roll catches. What these players will do is try to mix up Yhorms and Dark Sword at once, so that if you panic roll you get caught in permanent mix-up grinder. When it comes to defensive play, most players will try to utilize Yhorm's hyper armor to win trades, and Dark Sword's fast R1s to punish whiffs. First thing you have to understand when facing this setup is how to roll properly. This setup is pretty much a gimmick setup, and it mainly relies on you being aggressive and screwing up your rolls. When you get hit by Yhorm's or Dark Sword, do not panic roll. I mean, in general, panic rolling in Dark Souls 3 is pretty bad, and if you're facing this setup, you lose health very quickly. Remember that main strength of this setup is mixing up R1 and L1 to cut your panic rolls. Playing aggressively against Yhorm's Dark Sword combo is really risky, since you can get traded very easily, then one bad roll and you're screwed. So just like pretty much against any setup in Dark Souls 3, try to be as passive as you can. When it comes to punishable openings, dashing attack on Dark Sword is what you want to punish. It is very bad opening, and just like all neutrals in the game, it's very favorable to trade. If your opponent uses Dark Sword for anything other than whiff punishes, you can safely bet on dashing attack trades. So the moment you see your opponent attempt to zone in with Dark Sword dashing attack, set up a trade and then reset to neutral. It will take some practice to master the neutral trades in Dark Souls 3, but it's very rewarding. Dashing attack aside, you should try to exploit recovery on Yhorm's R1. The thing about Yhorm's is, it takes a lot of stamina to swing it, and if you learn to count the stamina your opponent has, you will be able to tell when your opponent can follow it up with another R1 or when he can't. Then you can deal with it just like with any other slow ass hyper armor weapon, by punishing the whiffs. Since most players that use Yhorm's Dark Sword combo rely on very simple setups, you can get good reads when to strike, because those players rely on exclusively obvious setups like R1 L1 or L1 L1 or R1 R1 and then L1, etc. Now it's time to discuss matchups. I think the best matchup against the setup is a really long spear like Gargoyle Flame Spear. It allows you to safely punish any opening on Dark Sword since you can outrange it, and it is very easy to punish Yhorm's R1s while staying relatively safe from Dark Sword mix-ups if you're using a long-range weapon. You guys are very lucky because I've got a really good example to demonstrate my point. As a part of non-meta tournaments, Skorbrand was using Dragon Slayer Great Axe and Barbed Straight Sword, which is essentially baby Yhorm's Dark Sword setup. In the second round he got matched up against SKSA, who had a perfect counter matchup, so he used the spear. You can see Skor opened with a very simple setup and he gets punished for it. This is what you want to look for, and this is why you want to have a long spear, so you can safely punish it and reset to neutral. Skorbrand, being a smart player, tried to get up SK's face, but this setup is really mediocre when it comes to those scenarios, because it is very easy to roll in reaction against it, and much like Yhorm's Dragon Slayer Great Axe can't apply neutral pressure that well. You can see Skorbrand going for another Dragon Slayer Great Axe setup, and SK punishes him once more. This is a perfect textbook play by SKSA since he forces Skor to either chase him or try to bait a trade with hyper armor setup. Both options are really bad for Skor since chasing players with this setup isn't great, and any Dragon Slayer Great Axe swing is easily punishable with a spear. Skor uses dashing attack with straight sword in here, and this is another shitty opening that I've talked about before. Sadly for SK, you can't trade it with a spear since spears aren't fast enough, but if he had a S-stock in offhand, he would have punished it. You can see Skorbrand being very careful with Dragon Slayer Great Axe swings because he knows that it is very easy to punish them with a spear. So he's forced to run this setup without Dragon Slayer Great Axe, making it a shitty sword setup. Now Skorbrand is a smart player, he realizes that this setup is really inefficient against spear and he swaps it to a different setup. Now there is another god tier counter setup to this combo. It's S-stock with Evelyn, but it's almost cheating since this setup beats pretty much anything in Dark Souls 3. You play it the same way as you do with spear and S-stock combo, except it is a lot more safe since you can use Evelyn to punish any whiff at any distance. So guys, there you have it. If you see Yhorm's Dark Sword combo, get a Gargoyle Flame Spear, pair it with S-stock, or get Evelyn with S-stock. Try to read your opponent, count stamina, wait for Yhorm's R1 and punish it, while staying as far from Dark Sword as you can. If you're trying to win against Yhorm's Dark Sword combo using poised weapons or curved swords, you're gonna have a bad time since Yhorm's can likely outtrade your poised weapon and it has insane reach. And curved swords will have troubles getting in close enough to land hits, and even then, if you get close, chances are Dark Sword will outtrade it. Generally, watch your rolls, as the strongest part of this setup is its mix-up potential. As long as you can punish whiffs while staying out of range, you're good. Your main goal fighting this setup should be disarming Yhorms, and Evelyn or a spear are perfect for that. That's about it. Leave a comment what setup breakdown you want to see next. As for now, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.